Thank you, Harper. I'm still setting up, so the mic wasn't turned on. Hello, Mike. Hello, Harper. Can you hear me now? Good, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we should just get like a camera that we know over the TV or something.
A good face-following camera would be nice.
Yeah.
Hello, Mario.
Who's on Teams?
Hmm?
Who's on Teams?
We have Mike Swift, Mario Rodriguez, Luke Finstra, and Harper Maverick.
Swifty.
Alright, it's 7 p.m. Let's start. Please stand. Heads down. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Lon, would you?
Bow our heads for a minute. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the safety that you've given our squadron and the Civil Air Patrol. We ask for your hand over each and every one. Protect us as we do our missions. Lord, be with our families also as they support us and giving us the ability to go and do these missions. And be with our service members, men and women, Lord, and their families. Protect them, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so we have a visitor. So let me introduce myself. I'm Andrei Tikhonov. I'm Squadron 5 commander. Chris Younger here is the deputy commander for the squadron, and we have Mike Swift online, another deputy commander. Lon is our maintenance officer. Dave is IT and public relationships. George is assistant maintenance officer. So what we do here at the squadron, we keep ourselves mission ready for a variety of missions which we can be involved in. And as part of being ready is play different roles in supporting the operations of our unit. So the members joining the squadron expected not only to, enjoy flying, learning new things, but also help us manage the unit. So once and if you join, we will go over open tasks and discuss what kind of help you could do for the squadron. For example, one of the open positions is assistant safety officer to help our present primary safety officer in carrying over tasks. Sometimes he cannot make it for primary job reasons or family reasons and whatnot, so we need someone who can step in and fill in that position. Other options we have, administrative tasks like keeping the log, for example. Chris is taking care of that, although it's not his primary duty, but he is stepping in and takes care of that. That's what we do. If some of the positions are not filled in, that becomes my primary responsibility. So less members help in different roles, more things I have to deal with, and my deputy commanders accordingly. So that being said, I'd like you to introduce yourself, who you are, why you are here, what would you like to accomplish with Civil Air Patrol, and we will help you to get through these steps and get you on board as efficiently and as quickly as possible. Yes, please.
Uh,
Yeah, you can stand. Just stand and talk to the camera.
my name is Joshua Hibson. I live in Beaumont, and I just recently got my private pilot's license from next door at the Flight Academy. I was told about Civil Air Patrol by one of my instructors, Katarina. I think you may know her. So I looked into it, and I see that you guys you do your missions. You help with disaster relief and search and rescue, but you also have mentor programs where you help kids who are interested in aviation or military or either or. I have a military background. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'm a police officer in the city of Banning, so it's been my whole adult life serving and helping people. So I just enjoy it, and if I can do that and fly at the same time, I can't think of anything better. So
That's great.
here, I'd like to just help out, fly every once in a while if I can, and just be part of a team.
I was totally going to guess either cop or firefighter.
Definitely cop. Don't call me firefighter.
Thank you for coming over. I think you've come to the right place, and we can talk through this meeting about different ways you can contribute and steps involved in coming on board and becoming VFR pilot initially and developing through different steps, etc. So thanks a lot for coming over, and you're welcome to take a seat. And
Thank you very much for inviting me.
yeah, it's a pleasure. Yeah, we have one more candidate coming next meeting, so that's great. It helps us to build the squadron back to its glory. Actually, Senior Squadron 5 is one of the oldest squadrons in California wing, and we pride ourselves with a lot of history in real search and rescue missions and many other missions. So thank you for coming. All right, so today is a safety night. So in the safety night, yeah, Roger, Bob, sorry, Roger is not here. Bob will step in for that. I will hand it over to you shortly. Meanwhile, let's take care of a few ongoing things. So let's start with aircraft status. Lon, would you?
Well, hats off to George for stepping up, and he is now one of the assistant maintenance officers for our squadron. He's been helping me out a lot. Today he has learned how to upload the nav database. So our plane 743, the nav database is now current for the next 28 days or whatever it is next month. And we also updated 948, which is probably going to be out of 100-hour inspection, and Terry will probably take that down to IPL versus 743. So I talked to Kevin tonight, and he's pretty confident that it'll be out by Friday. He's got the mags in that plane, and he's also got a part coming in Thursday, and so he should be done. And we uploaded the nav database on that also. We've checked the oxygen tank. There was a request, and the certification is due in October. So I'll pass that on to Gary Cinnamon, that we'll have to get recertified before October. We have a few months before that. There was an email that you had.
Wise, probably we need to empty those trash cans.
So you asked me to send out an email, so I sent it
Yeah,
out
thank
to
you.
all the pilots in California. I wasn't able to just do Southern California. So anyway, I already got a response back. Somebody fessed up to some of the things that they did not do, like wash the aircraft down and clean windshield. There's 2 quarts of oil that are in the hangar now, and I put a sign right there that said that if you use these quarts of oil, it's your responsibility to replace them. So there's a big bright sign right there by that oil, and
Yes, so it's only for flying cadets. There is a restriction, and carrying over any kind of training with unqualified crew, as far as I remember.
So if Jerry takes that plane down to IPL, he'll put on
He will put enough hours to it, yes.
We're fine.
He put on 81 hours, over 81 hours last month.
Yeah. 81.3.
Nice.
Yes, so 743 Charlie Papa is flying quite a bit, and Group 3 is doing a good job in general. Lots of cadet rides from around the area. Michael Brannan actually is flying quite a bit, so thanks to him. And I've been flying this past Sunday at the Cable Airport. I have flown 3 cadets, was supposed to be 4, but 1 didn't show up, so I ended up flying 1 for 2 sorties in a row, so he got lucky. So, speaking of flying, there is plenty of it. Well, that said, thank you, Lon, thank you, George, for taking additional responsibility. Really appreciate that. I'd like to say a few more words about future events. We are planning a search and rescue exercise for Group 3, so the planning paperwork will follow pretty soon. I'll try to complete it this week. Target timeline is end of August, early September, the weekend, probably last weekend of August or first or second weekend of September. That event will give an opportunity to all new members from around our squadron in Group 3 and within Squadron 5 to get required qualifications done and actually participate in real event where we're practicing our missions. So there will be prerequisites involved which you'd have to complete before you can go to that kind of event, and we will discuss these prerequisites with each new member who recently onboarded. So I'll do my best, and Chris and Mike will do whatever it takes to help you through all the steps involved before you can actually go to the exercise. There is still an opportunity to participate in encampment. Unfortunately, I cannot go, but it's a huge opportunity to fly cadets there. They're still looking for additional air crews. So Lon, if you're interested and available for the last week of July, they need an aircraft, they need a pilot to fly. Especially 743 Charlie Papa will be out of 100 hours, so it will be readily available. We just need to find someone who can do it. That said, what else? Well, let's go over to safety, and before I hand it over to you, Bob, I will share my first-hand experience and ridicule myself for the benefit, for the cause. In the safety aspect of aviation, one of the common issues which happen to many pilots is confirmation bias, right? So what confirmation bias is when we consider certain background of an issue and we draw unnecessary conclusion that those specific cause and effect type of matters related to the issue actually lead to particular outcome. And it's not always the case, right? So we really have to learn how to dismiss this kind of thought process and go back to the facts. So it's kind of funny situation. It's not nothing.
For the sortie that was in the system, and I called the people and apologized, and it was late in the afternoon, so East Coast is where they set up the missions. The shorter story is they were able to resurrect that mission for today, and there was a whole bunch of email chatter, but I felt pretty bad because by screwing up, I selected the wrong thing, and I have that ability to reschedule in Wimmers that flight. So lesson learned is look twice before you do something like that.
Yeah, Thank you, Lon. That's a good one too. You cannot imagine what went through my head when I that was a very interesting experience emotionally. Well, that said, Bob, please. Stage is yours.
Well, today we're going to cover two things. I'll make one kind of quick, and I'll make the second one kind of quick. So, considering we're having high temperatures, believe it or not, this came from Herzl Prop Company. Pilot safety and avoiding the dangers of dehydration. Can we name some of the things that it's going to affect us mentally and physically? Any ideas? So we become dehydrated. High temperature. Possible. Thinking ability. Yep. Headaches.
Vision
Nausea. Dizziness. Those are just a couple here. Sorry about that. Let me get my stuff.
Bob. I figured that's what you're
That's dead. All I got is scar tissue. That's what happens when you have a lot of kids. So anyway, summer flying season is here. It brings along clear skies, warm, sunny days, but summer also is peak season for often overlooked but serious flight hazards called dehydration. Unfortunately, many pilots are unaware of the symptoms of dehydration and the dangers of this insidious condition can pose during flight. So health experts have done a lot of research in regards to what dehydration has done. And we can always tell how much dehydration you have because I'm old and I don't have much body fat, but we can squeeze our skin. And if we're dehydrated, it may take 2 or 3 days to regenerate the fluids in between the cells in our body itself. So if we're flying, I look at myself, if I'm flying in hot weather, and every hour I should have at least one bottle, which is about 12 ounces of water minimum to keep me going. And if I have to take and get rid of it, well, I got a spare bottle in the aircraft to relieve myself. So if left untreated, dehydration can cause headaches, which we just named, fatigue, dizziness, muscle cramps, thanks George, nausea, and disorientation. The last word kind of bothers me, disorientation, because I'm going to bring this up with the Hemin accident. Each of these symptoms can significantly impede one's mental and physical performance. So if I have a headache, which slows us down mentally, and we just say, God, that sucker still hurts, how am I going to get rid of it? Well, sometimes you kind of chug-a-lug a lot of water if you're low on the dehydrated side. If it's just beginning, you may be able to get rid of it within an hour to 2 hours just by hydrating yourself. The decision making is very important, and it affects all of us in regards to flying aircraft. The best catch to offset dehydration early before the progress is to heat exhaustion. Without treatment, heat exhaustion can lead to kidney damage. I can attest to that with kidney stones from being aboard ship on water hours. Seizures or heat stroke, which can be life-threatening. Fluid loss and dehydration can be caused by exercise and excessive sweating, flying at high altitude, and of course every time we take a breath during very dry weather, what are we expelling? We're expelling moisture from our body, and we get rid of an awful lot of it through our lungs and breathing. I don't know if it's really been measured how much we expel in our breathing process, but it's got to be an awful lot. And especially during the high heats, when our body temperature starts going up, so the body says, hey, you're getting warm, it's time to start sweating, and it starts to get the lungs to keep them from collapsing. We need to start producing a lot of moisture to keep them on the cool side. Other warning signs of mild dehydration to look out for include, we just named the headache and stuff. How about dry and sticky mouth? That's kind of another first indication that you're becoming dehydrated. And of course, the sensation of thirst. If you notice of these signs in yourself or one of your passengers, rehydrate right away and move to a cooler area. Can't do much in an airplane. Altitude may help us out a little bit, but low altitude is definitely not going to help us. Here in Southern California, our inversion layer is probably around 3,000 feet. Sometimes it's during the summer months as high as 5,000 feet or even higher. So that inversion layer holds the heat down below that inversion layer, and it becomes pretty exhausting to the individual. I can remember flying with American Airlines. First thing we began to smell that we were in that ozone layer is when we got out of 10,000 feet, and sure enough, here comes the change of smell. And sure enough, you look at the temperature gauge, and sure enough, you're beginning to get into that inversion layer. Keep some bottles of water on board for your passengers too. I normally keep a little carry-on. I can get about 10 bottles in that, and I put it behind my seat so that everybody can reach something. And I carry that no matter where I go. If I don't have it at destination, I'm coming back, I'll take and load up that little thing by buying another at least 6 bottles. And if I have to stop for gas, I'll try and fill up some of those or even replenish my bottles that I've already used. Keep some water bottles on board, as I said. The amount of water you need each day depends on the individual factors, but in general, experts suggest drinking at least 8 ounces glass of water per day. I've heard as much as even a quart, especially in high heat. And if you think about it, 8 ounces is not very much. A glass that tall is about 8 ounces. And we're going to expel much more than that. I'll guarantee you by the end of the day, if you've been in hot weather and you've taken only 8 ounces, we'll say in 4 hours, you can do this to your skin and find out that you're getting dehydrated. If you have trouble reaching your daily water intake, make a goal to finish a bottle of water at the top of every hour, and that's what I kind of look at. So I kind of set myself, even if I have a snack on board for a 4 or 6 hour flight, I'm going to have a snack and water. Gatorade bottles work very good to fill up if you have to relieve yourself in flight. And don't feel that you need to fly if you feel lightheaded, dizzy, or even faint. When pre-flighting your aircraft, don't forget to evaluate your own fitness to fly, which includes being honest about your current health condition. And for example, if you're recovering from recent illness, don't forget we're kind of weak in regards to resistance to a lot of things after being ill. Illness may affect our body fluids. If you're drinking enough water to make up for fluid loss due to extreme temperatures, increased physical activity, or your consumption of a diuretic drink. If you start to feel dizzy, lightheaded, or faint, don't hesitate to cancel or delay your plans until you feel up to flying. So that's kind of short in regards to some things. And if you notice, even in our bathroom in the back, we have a chart showing how you can tell if you're dehydrated. If you drink enough water, it's going to be almost clear. If you're not, it's going to be pretty orangey. And that's a good indication that you need more water. Drink it. I take a quart with me at work every day, and in between my cup of coffee and my coffee cake, I take with me for my 10 o'clock snack because I get hungry. I'm drinking that thing most of the day. By the time I get home, it's empty. Because I like drinking water on the way home also. And that's only a 30-minute drive from March Air Force Base.
Also important to notice that if you drink a lot of coffee actually dehydrates you faster.
Yep.
So coffee helps get rid of moisture.
It's a diuretic.
Right.
Yep, it's a diuretic. And tea can be a diuretic also. And there's a lot of soft drinks that are diuretics, and people don't really realize what they can do to you. So you drink a can of soda, next thing you know, you go in the bathroom, it's just going right through you, pulling you out. So are there any questions? I said I covered it pretty quick here, what have you. I want to spend about another 15 minutes on this jet crash. Now, I'm just relying upon what the paper says, but I want to draw a graph if I can find it. And I find it very interesting because what I spoke of here, the person has worked for this particular company, asked the owner if he could borrow the jet to take some people to Las Vegas. So they flew the 6 passengers, which were quite they were all professional people, to Las Vegas. They probably gambled most of the night, had some cocktails, and decided to come back early to French Valley. So the forecast at French Valley, when they got airborne at 3:15, it was about 300 feet with low visibility. I'd say a half a mile. Now you got to figure out the sun begins to come up around 6 or what have you. And that fog that lays in that valley along from the coastal eddies that we've had in this last week with fog along the beaches is going to cause that ceiling to start down. So what did he do? He made one approach. No, and that altitude there, if I recall, is about 300 feet. Is that 300 feet on the GPS? If he's using the GPS. It's pretty high. It's not as low as an ILS. That's why I've always liked the ILS. You can get down to 100 feet on an ILS. If you're qualified, you can go down 0-0 with an autoland system, and it works very well. Trouble is the airlines got rid of it because it was too expensive, and we didn't shoot enough 0-0 approaches. They figured the delay was worth it than the cost of the equipment. So here's some stuff that we should consider here. So he takes off at 3:15, and he goes to Hemet. And he arrives somewhere between 04 to 04, 15 or 20. I'm just going to put down 20. Now, the weather here was 300 and a half. It didn't say what he found out here. You think he may have been a little bit behind the 8 ball in regards to being up all night and then maybe being dehydrated from drinking cocktails, and yet we'll say that the pilot may have had 1 glass of wine with dinner and felt pretty good. It's an assumption. We don't know that there will never be any toxicology reports because they were all incinerated, unfortunately. The other thing that was interesting, and I've always questioned, is that with glass cockpits, we never have much data left over in a fire, where if I had a round dial, the impact is such that it freezes the needles. And with that, the NTSB can make a lot of conclusions about accidents. A lot of times with glass cockpits, including the GPSs and what have you that we automatically fly with, when they're incinerated, they're gone. There's no data. So it gets kind of scary to me when it tries to find out what is wrong. The MEA, if I can remember this, is about here. And this is LBS. And I'm going to put HMT here. So he takes off. He stays below the MEA. I found that kind of questioning, which means he's kind of like on a VFR flight plan, and he's in that Cessna 550, which means he's probably trucking along about 300 knots. And then he gets along here. He makes one missed approach, and he comes back. So I'm just going to draw the final approach here. And he starts down. I'm exaggerating in some areas, but basically that's what the graph looks like that they have on radar track. Is this a coupled approach? Why isn't he flying a coupled approach on a GPS into Hemet? Kind of asinine not to do it, especially being up all night, right? I just want people to think about what's going on and how, for you yourself, need to think about when you're up long hours and you're trying to say, oh yeah, I feel great, I'm in good shape. Hey, I'll catch up with you.
Bob, there's a detail that I saw in the last report. If you look at their duty time, it was even worse because they landed from wherever they departed at Vegas at 9:30 at night. But of course, you got to button up the plane, paperwork, all that kind of stuff, right? They took off at 3:15 in the morning, something like that. So that means they were at the plane when probably 2 something.
2:30 at the
So
boat in a hurry.
you look at the duty cycle, and it's like And I think there were some questions about both of the airman certificates. They show that both of them required second in command in the aircraft because they didn't have enough hours in that type.
Yeah, he was the oldest individual, and it didn't really specify who was flying either. That was the other thing. If I recall, he was about 30 some odd years old. He just finished his commercial early this year. He had flown the jet. He had been with the company for 2 years. It was a competent pilot, but he was checked out with his commercial in the 550. So this is basically the second approach. And I look at this. That means right here, what could have happened right there? Any ideas? Airplane kind of got away from him, didn't it?
Not enough, maybe.
How about scan? You know, I don't fly a lot of instrument approaches like I did with the airlines and what have you. But I get up there, and I just had my commercial here 2 months ago. I talk to myself. I said, if you hear me mumbling, I'm talking to myself to keep my scan going. And I do that. I don't know how many people will talk to you and say, okay, watch, how much crab do you need? Where's the wind coming from? Okay, watch your glide slope. Let's watch your sink rate. Are you at 6 or you should be at 550? I know on my Bonanza, if I set it at 1700 RPM, 17 inches manifold, I'm going to be about 580 sink rate. Bonanza flies by numbers only. So I think right here was the beginning of it. This thing got away from him right there. Either a scan went to heck or he was doing something. Because why would you take and drop hundreds of feet here and then correct, and then you're wobbly here, and then you're back wobbly again, and the next thing you know, you're landing short on the runway. I just don't know why, if this is the GPS, why he's not on a couple of approach with the GPS. I'm sure that Cessna had the latest of instrumentation in it.
Well, that was the other thing. The detail that was interesting is they looked at the refurbishment date, and it had good avionics, but it didn't have the most modern avionics. And they were worried that those pilots may not have been used to the older avionics package. So a lot of speculation. But
It's the same thing when we lost the 182T out of Las Vegas. They were taking individual back to China Lake. What's the other Air Force base out there? Victorville. Edwards. Going back to Edwards. They're both in the Civil Air Patrol. And the guy flying it, between the two of them, they had 54,000 hours. And the one individual who was wing commander came out of American Airlines, excellent pilot, knew him personally, very, very attuned to what's going on. And they got carried away with the G1000, which was pretty new at that time. And we think they were given a vector and they were trying to unload the G1000. They hit the peak right outside of Las Vegas, about 100 feet short. Killed them both. What a shame. So we don't know what's taking place here. We can only make the assumption that he's kind of behind schedule on the thing, and he's trying to reset something. Maybe on the downwind, he should have gone back up into holding. He could have gone to March and landed there and gone to the FBO. He could have come to Riverside and done the ILS on runway 9 and landed and taken an Uber back to where the car was parked. It's not going to cost you that much. You can all chip in. And then he makes a correction again, and then it gets away from him again. And it's kind of a steep thing here. So it kind of looks like maybe, in my respect here, just looking at this, he began to get slow. And he said, oh, I'm slow, so I pushed the nose over. Because it's the peak, it hits a peak and then back down again. And then he's seesawing, so now he's really behind schedule. And then all of a sudden, he's thinking he's going to get 300 feet, and he's hand flying this thing. this is the only way it can happen, is a hand slide job versus doing a coupled approach. Even the Civil Air Patrol says if you're in bad weather to take and use a coupled approach. Am I not right? So unfortunately, this is kind of bothersome. The MEA is here and yet he's down below it. It didn't specify the altitude, but these are just radar tracks.
What was his cruise altitude?
Pardon?
What was their
I don't
cruise
know. It
altitude?
didn't specify.
I'm trying to pull that up. Hang on. Let me get the
It actually came from a news source, and they had the graph on it. My ex-mechanic sent it to me. I had it at work, and then I lost it.
The fact that they landed so short of a runway.
Yeah, 500 feet short.
Yeah, hits maybe they didn't set altimeter.
It isn't going to change that much between what it is, but they have AWOFs there. They have an AWOFs. Yes, Chuck.
From what I read, it sounded like he overflew the airport, turned to come back and landed short.
Well, they said he made a missed approach.
Okay.
They didn't use the words missed approach. They said he did approach and then went back to do another approach. So the papers, and the people who are non-aviators, until the NTSB comes up with something and they look at all the radar tracks to see what's happened, it didn't show the plot. I guess we could go back and see what we can find on
I got it.
one of the things here, the plots. But I thought he had, from the paper, it was quite lengthy, that he made an approach, and then he called ATC, which was SoCal, and said that he was going to go back around for another approach. Now, what was the weather when he made the second approach? Because he didn't say anything about the weather. ATC didn't say anything about the weather, air traffic out of SoCal. And you kind of wonder if it's still at 300 and a half. And we're guessing. We're only guessing. And what I'm trying to emphasize here is that we have instruments that tell us something. We have equipment that tell us something. And if we're not right, let's get into a holding pattern, put the thing on autopilot, get your stuff in order, and then just take and shoot an approach when you're all set up. If you're on a check ride and you say, I need to go one more time in this holding pattern so I'm all set up, the DPE isn't going to take and charge anything. He's saying you're using good head work. The guy that gave me my check ride, he said, I know you how to fly an airplane, but I'm just checking what your thinking ability is. And that is the truth. That should go for everybody. What is the thinking ability of this individual? Is he making good decisions? Are you making good decisions? So it's a real mystery why this thing is squiggly on the bottom end and then why he didn't go to MEA. So it's a shame. Does that just show I'm not sure. It kind of looks like what he's done here is that he was descending. He was descending to come back to get on track because this is the original track, but where did the crash take place?
Just north of runway 18, 18.
So it's up right up in here. At the hospital on the north end. That's the other thing I kind of question why the city fathers allowed him to put the hospital right at the end of the runway on the north end of Hemet, French Valley. I should say French Valley versus Hemet. So anyway, do we have any questions? I think we've covered quite a bit here, but my whole process here is we need to think a little bit more. And do we understand ourselves? Are we making the right decision? You as a police officer, you're not going to start shooting first. You're going to say, well, let's see what we can get done first of all before we just get in a rush to do something. Because when you get in a rush and we try and rush a damn car, you're going to get shot. That's why everybody, this lunatic this morning, I guess they found nailed his butt on a Kia something, I think it was, on a stolen car. They stayed away. They stayed way back, and they said, "Oh, we got all day. We'll close down the street and everything, and we got all day until you decide to come out of that car. We're not going to rush you, because you have no idea who else is in there. Am I right?" Yeah. So anyway, food for thought, guys. That's my old thing. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, for Chris, for sharing. From here I'll take an opportunity and discuss a little bit about the onboarding process for new members. This is your first visit. We require 3 visits to our meetings, and then we have a little sit down and discuss your goals. It can be just a short conversation after the meeting. What you would like to accomplish with Civil Air Patrol, if you find the environment here at our unit suitable for you, and we'll do the paperwork. We'll give you application forms you'll complete, and an envelope which you'll mail your national dues to the headquarters, along with fingerprints, and in about 2 weeks, plus minus a couple of days here and there, you'll receive an email with your invitation to register in our back office system, and your temporary membership card, which you can print and use in our events. There will be 6-digit number. You eventually will memorize it because they're going to use it everywhere. And from that point forward, you will be full member of Civil Air Patrol nationally, and then you become our member once you pay local unit dues. To say about dues, we have $82 national dues for California Wing. Once a year, it can be automatically charged. It's up to you. And we have $300 currently membership dues for Squadron 5. Our dues cover building and internet, an electric bill, and a hangar. So very basic expenses. Reason it's so high, we went a little bit lower on number of members. We are coming back, building it up. So expect to reduce the dues going forward. The way I look at it, you get a lot of benefits by becoming a member. You get to participate in our meetings, you get to participate in our activities. You will come on board as a pilot and fly our technically advanced aircraft. We have a fleet of 182s and 206 Cessnas in the area, both round dial, kind of intermediate between round dial and glass cockpit, and glass cockpit G1000. We have some G1000 on XI. You can get checked out in those. You have to find an aircraft, make sure it's available, but it's a possibility. Initially, how many hours you have as a PIC?
Probably 60.
Okay, so initially you'll come on board as a VFR pilot. VFR pilot privileges are very basic. You can rent aircraft at our very inexpensive dry rate, I believe $77 an hour for 182, and fly proficiency flights as much as you'd like. You can fly with CEP instructors, CFI, CFIIs who are on board as Civil Air Patrol instructors. You cannot bring a third party to our aircraft. It's all member only, with some exceptions within the rules. Once you reach specific limits, I don't remember on top of my head what are the limits, but it's all on our website. All steps involved in going to the next level, like transport mission pilot, or ride pilot, and so on and so forth. you will report your PIC hours through our back office system and eventually become qualified to get to the next step, Right, so right there. So it's all Squadron 5 CEP.gov, and if you go to at upper corner, you will eventually get to this page. So it tells you all the steps involved and phases involved. Besides just flying and coming on board as a pilot, there are some professional development things we have to do. Basically, learn about culture of civil air patrol, about different activities we do, airspace education, youth development, etc. And you pick a development track professionally within the organization, and we will help you to get on that track and move along. So as ex-military and as law enforcement, you have very specific track which you'll follow, and myself, Chris, Mike Swift, pretty much all members within the unit will help you to stay on course. My biggest advice to all members, if you feel like you get stuck and you don't really understand what to do next and where to find the required information, ask, don't hesitate. And if you do that, you come on board really quick. Charles is a great example. Under 2 months, he completed professional development level 1, completed all the familiarization and preparatory tasks required for mission scanner, got himself into the SAREX, completed both days of the search and rescue exercise and qualified as mission scanner and communication unit leader, right? MRO. Yes. So it's really up to you how fast you want to go and what kind of goals you want to achieve. I can give you my example. I came in the wrong time, right before the COVID started, so everything stopped at my first SAREX event. I got all the stuff done, and then the event got canceled, so I couldn't move forward for a few months. But as soon as events started to reappear, I got myself into additional training, etc., and managed to get my Form 5 done last year in May, initial Form 5, and then I got qualified in additional type of aircraft, etc., etc. So onboarding requires you to get checked out in every type of aircraft you'd like to fly. So I'm checked out on 206, non-turbo, and 182, round dial NG1000. Once you do it first time, the next time you just need to get your annual Form 5 in, let's say, highest level aircraft you want to continue to fly, and the other one is grandfathered in. So there is a process, there is a little bit of bureaucracy. Some systems are not perfect because it's all developed by volunteers. We are a volunteers organization. We get from organization as much as effort we put in. Right? So, and any other member would like to chime in and say a few words? Nathan, your experience? You're a pretty new member, but you are moving along pretty good.
Right, I'm still onboarding. Hopefully I get to fly really soon.
Yeah, there are tricks you learn, like uploading specific documentation in a specific way and reporting that you did that in the right way. Otherwise, you may report, oh, I have this qualification, but you forgot to upload a scan of a document, and then the reviewer will send you an email and say, hey, you missed that. Go here. Or maybe just say, oh, you missed that, and doesn't say anything. So, and in that event, you just go to me, to Chris, or any other senior member in our unit, and we'll help you. Usually, you don't have to wait for the next meeting to take place. Just call me, email me, or text me, whatever works for you, whatever communication option. And whenever I have time, I'll help. Chris is very responsive too. Mike is extremely responsive. Lon is qualified as SAT in multiple disciplines. So we are here to help each other, and we will all work together to make you a valuable member of our team. Okay, Chuck, any comments?
No, the thing, you just have to set your goal and go after it, and reach out to these guys. Everybody here has been unbelievably helpful. I've called and texted, and they're great guys. They'll answer your question. There's a lot of terminology. I know that just from this discussion that you got your head's kind of swimming in it, and just ask.
Like most things, you get out of it what you put into it.
Yes, sir.
Right.
A lot of acronyms. And also, I was where you were a year and a half ago. So,
What is this?
I was where you were a year and a half ago. I got my private over at RFA, came over here. Here I am now. So, yeah, it's how fast you want to go, and we're here to help. I kind of specialize in a lot of the administrative and bureaucracy parts of it, so I usually know how to get something done. But Andre has the overriding commander authority. Mike Swift has been here forever, so if we don't know it, Mike definitely knows it.
That's not an exaggeration. He's been here forever.
So hey, we can get you set up. This is a senior squadron, so we don't typically do things like ground team, but we do have ground squadrons that if that's interesting, you can participate in it. But this squadron particularly goes around communications and flying. So just be aware of that if that's something you are interested in. We can. It doesn't restrict you from joining another squadron to do their activities, but
Yeah, the ground team stuff does still happen out here when we do star exits.
Yeah.
What do you mean, ground team?
Ground
Well,
search.
search and rescue exercise typically is multiple different branches, right? We are kind of working within the incident command system of FEMA, right? So we can have air operations branch, we can have ground team, we can have communications, and so on and so forth. So you can participate in all kinds of activities, not necessarily, you are not limited by what this particular squadron does.
Oh, I see.
And also, you'll probably be in the same boat I am as far as hours. So it'll be a while before you can get enough qualification to be a mission pilot. However, what I always recommend, and everybody's heard this speech from me, is I'm an observer. I'm also a rated pilot, but since I've got so long to go with hours, I decided I'm going to be one of the best observers out there. So we sit in the right seat. We run the mission in comms for base to the aircraft, aircraft to aircraft, and we handle the people in the back seat if we have backseaters. And in turn, if we do our job right, it turns the mission pilot's job into just driving the plane. And trust me, most mission pilots are used to having to do both jobs, and they don't like doing both jobs because it gets really stressful. So one thing I would suggest, especially for you because you're active law enforcement, is get your level 1 done, get your mission scanner done, which is one of the first things that we want to do in an airplane, and then get your mission observer, because as soon as you get that, you can get your what we call counter drug certification. So usually you have to be here for 2 years, but as active law enforcement, you'll qualify immediately.
Oh, wow.
And so, for instance, Andre and I and Terry and Roy, we're all going down to Imperial for 3 days to do border patrol stuff. So that should be, if that puts a little, flame in the tailpipe to get through MS, that's going to be the hardest, Chuck can tell you. It's going to be the hardest part, but get through MS, get through MO. And as a rated pilot, these will be very easy. The hardest part will be getting through the bureaucracy of just how to get it done. But once you're there, since I became an observer and I'm a rated pilot, now I have to turn down missions. So
Really?
yeah. So
There is plenty of opportunities
Yeah.
to fly once you get through these steps.
yeah, and if you pay attention and kind of do the job, then it turns into people kind of want you to come. So as opposed to you having to hunt pilots down and get on board. But it's just a different experience because it's one of the missions, one of the real missions that we do. It's not practice. So we're working with Border Patrol, we're working with other law enforcement.
Well, the WADS mission is a lot of fun.
Oh,
We are
Lots
flying.
of
You get chased
fun.
by fighter jets.
We
Yeah.
simulate the slow target.
Yeah.
Kind of funny because they can't fly as slow as we can fly fast. As fast as you can, and they're like, oh!
Yeah, you'll see them high angle of attack, just
As they're passing you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if that kind of puts a little bit in it, I find the MO work to be very very enjoyable. And we do. I have flown from the right seat, so it's a whole thing of by the time you get to mission pilot, you'll already have everything nailed.
Yeah, I went the same path. I started flying cadets earlier, but I flew as MO, and I'm still sometimes taking opportunity to fly as mission observer in the right seat and offload the actual pilot from basic tasks like radio communications to the base, keeping the paperwork done, putting the flight plan in, etc. So you actually learn while sitting in the right seat. You learn from mission pilot and getting ready for the actual check ride.
And just like I said, what I found is the act of trying to be a very good observer will also prepare you for your mission pilot rating. So you'll already have all the procedures down. It's just a matter of flying from the left seat now. So.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Chris. Any questions, comments from anybody? Well then, the meeting is over.
I have a good place.
Okay.
Introduce this gentleman.
Okay, group commander, let's stage.
How you doing? I'm Major Benner, Group Commander, Inland Empire. Got a few things I wanted to run across with you guys real quick. We talked about encampment flights and working with cadets. And one thing I want to remind all of you are you're not a composite squadron, you're not a cadet squadron, but the cadet side of things still needs you. So if there's things, if you want to get involved, you can do the cadet programs conference, the encampments, as just driving up there and being one of the members to help out. None of the cadet stuff happens without senior members, and you'll have fun. You're going to meet other adults, other senior members out there that you make the best friends with, that you only see once or twice a year as you do these different events. Highly recommend you get into those. For if you do want to work with kids, flying and working with kids, you do the cadet orientation flights. That's really rewarding. I always enjoyed doing that. And on the O-Ride subject, I want to thank Squadron 5 for doing lots and lots of O-Rides for us. So for all of our cadets, so thank you. That's very, very much appreciated. For other ideas and I recommend for command staff and possibly other members, make sure you're visiting other squadrons just to kind of see what they're up to, what they're doing. I recommend they come and visit you here, and that all units are visiting other units. It'll give you ideas on, that's a neat training idea. There's a bunch of composite squadrons. You're the only senior squadron, but there's most of the other squadrons are still composite squadrons where they have a senior program as well, and you get an idea of what they're doing. Maybe come back with some ideas to make things interesting, fun here. Maybe even help that squadron if you see them struggling with something. Hey, we do this, and so kind of sharing information is really important. We had mentioned the for things to do. Let me jump over to that real quick. Hemet is a cadet squadron, the Squadron 59. Something they just did was really interesting that I think you guys would love doing is they went down to Miramar and did like a 2-hour ATC tour. They went through and the ATC guys showed them everything they did. They spent a long time with them, let them sit in the chairs, see all the equipment they use, and that was a great tour. And that's something, if you are interested in that, maybe talk to Eugene Hawks, Squadron 59, and see what he did to do that. There's an ATC. I don't know what's inside the building here, ATC right here at Riverside, the FAA building.
Well, they're a contract tower, but we've been trying to work on that deal.
I have a contact with the tower manager, but unfortunately they are extremely busy and extremely understaffed.
I've gotten in that tower so many times.
So they're not very open to tours, but I keep bugging them.
Someday.
So someday
Yeah, pre-COVID, I've been in there a lot.
Would they go down to the Tracon Center?
Yes,
So
they did. Yes, they went down to the big room where they got all the people working, doing all the SoCal approach, all that good stuff. So,
Commander, you can actually use March too. Use March on an off weekend.
do a tour.
March Field has got a great ATC center down there.
And they love assisting with that stuff. They can show you their whole weather center. They got a great weather center, all that. They can show you all that and what they do. and I'm sure Bob can help you with the right contacts to get in there and get a tour on a weekend.
Actually, one of our missions is community relationship and airspace education with community.
And when you're at these places, recruit more members.
Right. So partially we go there and recruit cadets and senior members too, but there is a part which people forget about it all the time, and that's called teachers in airspace education. So we as Civil Patrol can make relationships with local schools and introduce them to our different resources from Civil Patrol, like STEM kits, which are absolutely free. And the cost of participation for educators is extremely small, like $35 for lifetime membership. And that gives them a single ride in CEP aircraft as part of TOP, what is it called, the Teacher on a Plane program?
Yeah, I think it's TOP, the
It's
TOPS
a top
program.
So I'm trying, but the local education bureaucracy kind of goes slow.
Talk to Squadron 29. They are currently meeting one day a month at Corona High School. They've got an amazing aerospace program over there. And they got a teacher that's really into the program, and I don't think he knows anything about going for a flight.
I'll talk to Lieutenant Willis and
Yep.
join forces with them for sure. And there are many things to do, and not only just flying. That's basically the primary
Right.
purpose of this speech.
But there's a lot of other aviation-related opportunities there. Now, a couple other oddball things here. We're talking about dues. Reach Across America. Are you guys involved in that yet? Have you signed up?
We will. We actually
Okay.
have members interested in leading that effort.
Good.
The coming new
You can
year.
cover, if you work hard, Reach Across America. Here, well, and Cadet and Composite Squadrons, we have the adult members going out trying to get corporate sponsorships, talking to businesses. Cadets are going out talking to friends and family. But you guys, it's all the corporate sponsor stuff. Once we discuss more about the Reach Across America program, we put Reese on the graves over at Riverside National Cemetery, and the squadron gets a really decent kickback from those donations. Okay, there are squadrons that make anywhere from $3,000 to $30,000 a year doing Reach Across America fundraising. So you get Reese that are sponsored to go to Riverside National Cemetery, and the money comes to squadron. A portion of the money.
And
Yes,
it
sir.
will help us reduce our membership.
Yep. Yep. It can even pay for them if you get the right corporate sponsors.
Yeah. Bring this up here. That is, I think the Reese are 15.
They've been 15 for like 20 years.
And
They
the
just
Squadron
went
gets
up.
5 back, which is
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I think they just went up to $18 for the first time in decades.
30%. Trees are expensive.
Yeah. So consider that. That's something for you guys to decide to jump into. If you guys want to reduce your dues and help coordinate this Reach Across America thing, Squadron can make some decent money at that and get that covered. Other thing I want to mention, I've put out a few emails recently. I've been going to squadrons and doing squadron portraits, military-style portraits for members. I know there's not a lot of uniforms necessarily worn here all the time, and if a military-style portrait is not your thing, and we're not going to get a full house for that, that's fine. We do. I am at other squadrons doing this, so if you do want to get that, it can be in blues, it could be in ABUs, it can be in polo, whatever you want to do. And you can visit one of the other squadrons as I put the emails out for the makeup photos, because I realize this squadron may not want to, or may not have the numbers for me to bring in the whole rig in here. But if you still want to get that done, you can visit any of those squadrons. I'm doing Redland Squadron Thursday, and at this point I've got Hemet Squadron scheduled for the 22nd of August. So if it's something that you do want to do, if you want to throw your uniform on and get a cool picture of yourself, I'll do that for you. There's no cost for it. So that is all I had. Yes, sir.
I'm going to bend your ear for a minute because the advisory board of Redlands for the airport states that 411, which is Yucaipa, is moving to Redlands.
Correct. They're already there.
And they are going to apply for an airplane. Have you heard about that?
Not that. I haven't heard that yet. They need the pilots.
Well, they need more than a pilot. They need more seniors in that squadron.
Yeah. No.
Alhama Squadron, I think, may apply for the airplane because they've been flying quite a bit and they have enough pilots.
So they used to have a park.
Right. They're currently not in an airport anymore. Now they're meeting out of a church. So, but it doesn't mean you can't get an airplane over
Can
Hemet.
I do a military picture like that?
Mr. Saba. Anyways, for those of you who know Mr. Saba, you don't even need to see the picture. Anyways, thanks, folks. I appreciate all your hard work. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Keep going. I'll be back in a few weeks, whatever it takes. Please, if you want to get your pictures taken, come to one of the standby or the makeup events.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
When you send out the military vote, that's exactly
All
what I
right,
took out.
members online, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining. We also had Michael Hubman online.
All right, see you guys later. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Again.
Take care, Skipper.
Thank you, sir.
Do you-
I'll give you the receipt. Just give me a moment.
Do you know how to check the attendance electronically? Because I update it electronically every day or every meeting. Have you seen
Well,
that?
I put it in, or Roger puts it in for safety.
He does it by hand. Have you? Because what I take that and I make it electronic. So there's a. If you look at the attendance log, you can always see who attended on your safety day.
That include the on the Zoom.
Because I add them in as soon as I know about them. Here, I'll show you.
So Chris, if you've got a couple of minutes, I want to chat with you about the radio's
Uh-oh.
access.
But like I know what they anything about them.